The voicemail notification glowed on my phone like a warning light, and my hands started shaking before I even pressed play. My husband James sat beside me on our worn couch, his jaw already tight with that look I'd come to recognize over 37 years of marriage, the one that meant his mother had struck again. "Should we listen to it together?" he asked quietly. I grabbed his hand. At 68 years old, I thought I'd seen every manipulation tactic in the book. I'd raised 3 kids, weathered 2 recessions, and buried both my parents. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for what my mother-in-law Patricia had become since we announced we were moving in with our pregnant daughter Sarah. The voicemail started playing. "James, honey, I never said those things." "I really didn't. I think you misunderstood me completely." Patricia's voice dripped with wounded innocence. "I was simply expressing how hopeful I am to be involved in my grandchild's life. When I was pregnant with you, I just wanted my mother there, so this whole situation is quite shocking to me." I felt my stomach twist. Just yesterday, she'd said something entirely different. "She's lying," I whispered. James squeezed my hand tighter. His face had gone pale. Patricia continued, "I would never show up uninvited anywhere. I don't do things like that. This is all one big misunderstanding, and I wish you'd just call me instead of sending these accusatory text messages." The voicemail ended. We sat in silence for a long moment, the afternoon sun streaming through our living room window, dust particles floating in the light like tiny witnesses to our confusion. "Did we imagine yesterday?" James finally asked, his voice hoarse. "No," I stood up, anger flooding through me. "We did not imagine anything. Yesterday had been crystal clear. We'd called Patricia to tell her about our plans, how Sarah, 7 months pregnant and recently divorced, needed us, how we'd decided to sell our house and move into her spare bedroom to help with the baby. It was supposed to be a simple announcement. Instead, Patricia had gone ice cold on the phone. "So you're choosing her over me?" she'd said, her voice dropping to that dangerous register I'd learned to fear over the decades. "Mom, it's not about choosing," James had started. "I'll be there every day then. Whether you like it or not, that's my grandchild too. Actually, it's my first grandchild, so really, it's my child as much as anyone's." The words had hung in the air like poison. James and I had exchanged horrified looks across our kitchen table. "Mom, you can't just show up whenever you want," James had tried to explain. "Watch me." Then she'd hung up. Now, 24 hours later, she was denying everything, every word, every threat, every chilling promise. "I need to call Sarah," I said, reaching for my phone again. "Wait." James stood up, running his hands through his thinning gray hair. "Let me respond first. I need to set this straight." "James, she's gaslighting you. Gaslighting us. This is textbook manipulation." "I know that, Linda. I know." His voice cracked slightly. "But she's still my mother." That sentence had defined our entire marriage. She's still my mother. As if that biological fact excused everything. The boundary violations, the guilt trips, the way Patricia had inserted herself into every major decision we'd ever made. When we bought our first house, she'd shown up with a moving truck we hadn't requested, full of her old furniture. When our son got married, she'd cornered the wedding planner and changed the seating chart. When our daughter Emma went through her cancer scare, Patricia had somehow made herself the victim, calling everyone we knew to talk about her suffering. But this felt different. This wasn't just boundary pushing. This was erasing reality itself. James picked up his phone and started typing. I watched him craft a careful message, each word chosen to avoid triggering her while still maintaining our position. It was a dance he'd perfected over 68 years. "Thank you for your message, Mom. I know clearly what I heard during our call yesterday, and that language still makes me uncomfortable. There is no misunderstanding. Please understand and respect that Linda and I need to support Sarah right now. We can talk more later, but our decision is final." He showed me the text before sending it. "It's good," I said, though my chest felt tight, "but she won't accept it." "I have to try." He sent it. 3 seconds later, his phone rang. "Patricia." "Don't answer," I urged. "I have to." James, please. But he was already swiping to accept the call, and I watched my husband's face transform as his mother's voice came through, loud enough for me to hear even without speakerphone. How dare you? How dare you send me something like that after I poured my heart out in that voicemail? I did not say those things, James. I did not. Mom, I heard you clearly. You heard wrong. Or Linda is twisting things in your head like she always does. This is her doing, isn't it? She's the one who wants to keep me away from my grandchild. My breath caught. There it was. The accusation that had lurked beneath the surface for decades, now finally spoken aloud. James's hand tightened around the phone. Don't bring Linda into this. She has nothing to do with. Nothing to do with it? She has everything to do with it. She's taking you away from me. She's taking my grandchild away from me, and now she's putting words in your mouth and making you believe I said things I never said. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. For years, I'd tried to maintain peace with Patricia. I'd bitten my tongue through countless dinners where she'd criticized my cooking, my parenting, my career choices. I'd smiled through the jokes about how James could have done better. I'd accepted her backhanded compliments about how I'd aged or how I'd gained weight or how surprising it was that James still found me attractive. But calling me a liar? Making me doubt my own memory? That was a line I couldn't uncross. I grabbed the phone from James's hand. Patricia, this is Linda. I was on that call yesterday, and I heard every word you said. You told us you'd show up, whether we liked it or not. You called Sarah's baby your child. Those are facts, not interpretations. Silence on the other end. Then, well, I see who's really running this show. This isn't about control, isn't it? You've always resented how close James and I are. You've spent 40 years trying to wedge yourself between us. And now you're using this, pregnancy, as your final play, to cut me out completely. That's not true. Is it? Tell me, Linda, why wasn't I told about this decision to move in with Sarah? Before it was finalized, why wasn't I consulted? Because it wasn't your decision to make. She's my son's daughter. That makes it my business. She's 35 years old, Patricia. She's not property. And neither is my grandchild, which is exactly what you're trying to turn them into, your property. You want to play grandmother and push me out entirely. The accusation was so absurd, so twisted from reality, that I actually laughed, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. I'm 68 years old. I'm not trying to be anyone's mother or grandmother. I'm trying to help my daughter through a difficult time. That's it. By moving across the country? By taking James away from everything he knows? From me? Sarah lives 2 hours away, Patricia. 2 hours. It might as well be across the country if you're going to freeze me out. James took the phone back from me. His face had gone red, a vein pulsing in his forehead that only appeared when he was truly angry. Mom, stop. Just stop. Nobody is freezing you out. We're telling you that Sarah needs us right now, and we're going to be there for her. You can visit, you'll meet the baby, but you cannot dictate the terms of our lives. I never tried to dictate anything. I simply expressed excitement about being a grandmother, and you're both treating me like I'm some kind of monster. I watched James close his eyes, trying to center himself. This was the pattern. Patricia would push and push, cross every line. Then, when confronted, she'd reframe herself as the victim and make us question whether we'd overreacted. Mom, I love you, but I need you to respect our boundaries. What boundaries? The ones Linda invented to keep me away? The ones we set together as a couple. There is no we anymore, is there? There's just Linda telling you what to think and feel. My little boy is gone, replaced by her puppet. That did it. I saw something break in James's face. Not the angry break, but the sad one. The one that meant he'd finally reached his limit. I'm hanging up now, he said quietly. James, don't you dare, ended the call. Then, methodically, he turned off his phone. We stood in our living room, the place we'd lived for 23 years, surrounded by decades of memories, and I realized we were both shaking. "I'm sorry," James said. "For what?" "For not protecting you from her sooner. For all the years I made excuses." I wrapped my arms around him. At 68 and 70, we fit together differently than we had at 28 and 30. Everything was softer now, slower, but the comfort was deeper, richer. "We protected each other," I said into his shoulder. "Did we? Or did I just let her abuse you for 40 years while I played peacemaker?" It was a question I couldn't answer, not honestly, because there was truth in it, even if I didn't want to acknowledge it. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Mom, Grandma Patricia just called me crying. What happened?" Ice flooded my veins. "She called Sarah," I told James, showing him the screen. His face went pale again. "Oh, God. What do I tell her?" "The truth." I typed carefully. "Your grandmother is upset that we're moving in with you. We had a disagreement about boundaries. Don't worry about it, honey. Everything is fine." Sarah's response came quickly. "She said you're trying to cut her out of the baby's life. She's really upset, Mom, like really crying." "Of course she is," James muttered. I called Sarah instead of texting back. She answered on the first ring. "Mom, what's going on? Grandma is saying you won't let her see the baby." "That's not true, sweetheart. Your grandmother has some unrealistic expectations about access to you and the baby, and when we tried to set reasonable boundaries, she became defensive." "What kind of expectations?" I hesitated. Sarah was 7 months pregnant, dealing with the aftermath of a difficult divorce, and the last thing she needed was family drama. But she also deserved the truth. "She said she'd be coming over every day whether you liked it or not. She referred to your baby as her child. When your dad tried to address it, she denied saying any of it." Silence on the other end. Then, "She said the baby was her child?" "Yes." Wow, that's really not okay." "No, it's not." "Mom, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Grandma has always been intense, but this is next level." "You don't need to apologize for her, honey." "Still, this is my fault. If I wasn't in this situation..." "Stop. This is not your fault. You're going through a divorce and having a baby. You need support. That's what family does." "But if it's causing problems with Grandma..." "Sarah Elizabeth, listen to me. Your grandmother's inability to respect boundaries is not your responsibility. It's not mine either, really. It's hers, and your dad's going to have to deal with it." James was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe? Or relief that I'd finally said out loud what we'd both been thinking for years. "Okay," Sarah said slowly, "but she sounded really upset, Mom, like genuinely hurt." "I know she did. Your grandmother is very good at sounding hurt when she doesn't get her way." "That sounds harsh." It was harsh. It was also true. But Sarah didn't have 40 years of experience with Patricia. She'd been the beloved granddaughter, mostly shielded from the worst of it. "Maybe it is harsh," I admitted. "But honey, I need you to understand something. Your grandmother has a pattern of creating crises when she feels she's losing control. This is what she does." "So, what do I do when she calls back?" "Because she will. Tell her the truth. Tell her you're excited for her to meet the baby, but that you're supporting our decision to move in and help you." "She's going to guilt trip me." "Probably." "Great." After we hung up, I found James sitting on the couch with his head in his hands. "She called Sarah," he said. Not a question. "Yes." "To triangulate. To get Sarah on her side." "Yes." I hate that I even know that term. I hate that I need to know it. I sat beside him. "We could just not move. Stay here. Keep the peace." He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Is that what you want?" "No, Sarah needs us." "Then that's what we do, and my mother can either accept it or not." "She won't accept it." "I know." His phone, still turned off, sat on the coffee table between us like a small bomb. We both stared at it. When you turn it back on, there are going to be dozens of messages, I said. I know. From her, from your sister, probably from your brother. The whole family tree. Your mother is excellent at mobilizing the troops. James laughed without humor. She could run a military campaign with those organizational skills. If only she used her powers for good. We sat in silence for a moment. The house creaked around us. Familiar sounds I'd be leaving soon. The thought filled me with unexpected sadness. We'd raised our children here, celebrated birthdays and holidays and graduations. This house held 40 years of life. Are we doing the right thing? James asked quietly. Yes. You sound certain. I am certain. Sarah needs help with the baby. We can provide that help. It's really that simple. Nothing with my mother is simple. Then maybe it's time we stop letting her complicate things. He turned to look at me fully. You've changed. What do you mean? You used to be more patient with her, more willing to smooth things over. I'm 68 years old, James. I don't have the energy to smooth anymore, and honestly, I don't have the desire. Good, he said. Neither do I. It felt like a turning point, a line drawn after decades of erasing previous lines, redrawing them further back, giving ground bit by bit until we'd nearly given up all the territory we'd started with. James turned his phone back on. The notifications came in a flood. 12 missed calls, 23 text messages, 2 voicemails. Jesus, he muttered, don't look at them all at once. But he was already scrolling. Mom, 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 my sister Karen, Mom, Mom, my brother Tom, Mom. What are they saying? Karen says I need to call Mom immediately. Tom says there's been some kind of misunderstanding and I should fix it. Mom says... He trailed off. What? She says if I don't call her within the hour, she's driving over here. The threat hung in the air. 2 hours away meant she could be here by evening. She won't actually do that, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Won't she? She's done things like this before. He was right. When Emma had cancer and we'd asked for space during treatment, Patricia had shown up at the hospital anyway. When our son Michael set boundaries around holiday visits, she'd appeared at his door on Christmas morning with enough guilt trip tears to drown a small village. Then we don't let her in, I said firmly. Linda! No, James, listen to me. If she drives 2 hours to show up at our door after we've explicitly asked for space, that's not love, that's control. And we don't reward that behavior by letting it work. She's going to cause a scene. Then she causes a scene. Let the neighbors see. Let everyone see who she really is. James looked shocked. In 40 years, I'd never suggested anything so confrontational. You really have changed, he said. No, I've just run out of patience. His phone rang. Patricia again. Don't answer. If I don't, she'll just escalate. Let her. We stared at the ringing phone until it went to voicemail. Seconds later, a notification. New voicemail from Mom. I don't want to listen to it, James said. Then don't. She'll say I'm ignoring her. You are ignoring her. Linda. What? What's the alternative? We answer every call, respond to every text, let her dictate the terms of every interaction for the rest of our lives? We're 70 years old, James. How much longer are we going to live like this? The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I didn't take them back. They needed to be said. James's face crumpled slightly. You're right. You're completely right. I don't know how to be her son without being her emotional support animal. That phrase, emotional support animal, was so perfectly accurate that I almost laughed. Almost. You learn, I said gently, starting now. What if she really does show up? Then we deal with it, together. His phone buzzed again. This time, his sister Karen. James, what is going on? Mom is hysterical. She thinks you hate her. James typed back. No hate, just boundaries. We'll call you later to explain. Karen's response. She's talking about driving to your house. James, I've asked her not to. Karen, You know that won't stop her when she's this upset. James put the phone down. Karen says she's really coming. I felt my heart start to race. This was it. The confrontation we'd been avoiding for 40 years was about to happen in our driveway. Then we prepare, I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. Prepare how? We decide right now what we're going to say. We get our story straight. We present a united front. James nodded slowly. Okay, yes, united front. We spent the next hour rehearsing what we'd say, what we wouldn't say, how we'd handle her tears, her accusations, her inevitable attempts to separate us and appeal to James privately. She's going to ask to speak to you alone, I warned. I'll say no. She'll cry. I'll stay firm. She'll say I'm controlling you. I'll tell her that's not true. She'll bring up things from years ago, grievances she's been storing up. I'll tell her this isn't about the past. She'll make it about the past. Then I'll walk away. We were strategizing like we were planning for battle, which I supposed we were. The doorbell rang at 6:30 that evening. We looked at each other across our kitchen, where we'd been making dinner neither of us wanted to eat. She actually came, James whispered. Yes. What do? We open the door. We say what we plan to say. We don't let her in. Don't let her in? Linda, she drove 2 hours. Because we asked her not to. Because we set a boundary and she immediately violated it. That's exactly why we don't reward the behavior. The doorbell rang again. Longer this time. More insistent. James walked to the door like he was walking to his own execution. I followed close behind. He opened it. Patricia stood on our doorstep, eyes red and puffy, tissue clutched in one hand. She dressed carefully, not too casual, not too formal. The perfect outfit for playing the wounded mother. James, she said, her voice breaking. Thank God, I was so worried. Mom, I asked you not to come. I know, but I couldn't stand the thought of you being upset with me. I needed to fix this face to face. You know I can't stand it when we fight. We're not fighting, Mom. We're setting boundaries. But honey, there's been such a terrible misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. You said what you said. I heard it clearly. Patricia's eyes flicked to me, standing behind James. Her expression cooled by several degrees. Linda, I suppose you're enjoying this. Nobody's enjoying anything, Patricia. Really? Because you've wanted me out of the picture for years, and now you've finally found your excuse. That's not true, isn't it? Be honest, Linda. You've never liked how close James and I are. You've always been jealous. The accusation was so absurd, so divorced from reality, that I couldn't even formulate a response. James stepped forward slightly, placing himself more firmly between us. Mom, stop. This has nothing to do with Linda. This is about you respecting our decisions. I do respect your decisions. I just want to be part of my grandchild's life. Is that so wrong? No, but showing up here after we asked you for space, that's wrong. So I'm not allowed to visit my own son now? You're allowed to visit when you're invited. That's what boundaries mean. Patricia's face transformed. The wounded mother act fell away, replaced by something harder, colder. I see. So that's how it's going to be. After everything I've done for you, after raising you alone when your father left, after sacrificing everything to give you opportunities, this is how you repay me? With rules and boundaries and keeping me away from my own grandchild. Mom, Dad didn't leave. You divorced him because he was impossible to live with, just like you're being impossible right now. I'm not being impossible. I'm being clear. Clear? You're being cruel. Do you have any idea what the last 24 hours have been like for me? Crying myself to sleep, wondering what I did wrong, trying to understand why my son suddenly hates me? I don't hate you. You're acting like you do. You won't talk to me. You won't listen to me. And now you're physically blocking me from your home. Your wife has poisoned you against me, and you're too blind to see it. Leave Linda out of this. How can I? She's the source of all of this. Before her, you and I were close. We talked every day. We understood each other. Then she came along, and suddenly everything changed. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Patricia, we've been married for 40 years. This isn't sudden. 40 years of you slowly eroding my relationship with my son. 40 years of turning him against me bit by bit. And now this, your final victory. Congratulations, Linda. You win. This isn't about winning or losing, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. No? Then what is it about? Explain it to me. Make me understand why I'm suddenly the villain in your story. You're not a villain, but you do need to respect our boundaries. Those aren't boundaries, they're walls. You're building walls to keep me out, and you're using this move to Sarah's as an excuse to do it. James held up his hand. Mom, that's enough. I'm going to ask you to leave now. Leave? James, I drove 2 hours to get here. I know, and I asked you not to. That's exactly the problem. You don't listen, you don't respect our wishes, you do whatever you want and expect us to just accommodate it. Because I'm your mother, because I love you, because family is supposed to support each other, not shut each other out. Then support us. Support our decision to help Sarah. Support our need for space right now. How can I support being excluded from my grandchild's life? You're not being excluded. You're being asked to respect reasonable limits. Patricia's face crumpled. The cold anger dissolved back into tears. Reasonable? There's nothing reasonable about any of this. You're destroying our family, James. You and Linda are tearing apart everything I built. You didn't build us, Mom. We built ourselves. I raised you. I gave you everything. And I'm grateful, but that doesn't mean you get to control my life forever. The word control hung in the air like a grenade. Patricia's face went white, then red. Control? You think I'm trying to control you? After everything? All the sacrifices? You think this is about control? Yes, James said quietly. I do. The silence that followed was deafening. A car drove past on our quiet street. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Normal neighborhood sounds, completely at odds with the moment exploding on our doorstep. Well, Patricia finally said, her voice shaking, I see how it is. I see exactly how it is. You've chosen her over me, your wife over your mother. After everything I've done, everything I've sacrificed, you're throwing me away like garbage. Mom, that's not... Don't patronize me with denials. I can see the truth standing right in front of me. You've made your choice. I hope you can live with it. I hope when you're old and your children abandon you the same way, you'll remember this moment and understand exactly how I feel. She turned and walked back to her car, movements stiff with dignity and rage. We watched her drive away, her taillights disappearing into the evening. James closed the door and leaned against it. I think I'm going to throw up, he said. I put my arms around him. You did good. You held firm. Did I? Because I feel like I just destroyed my relationship with my mother. You didn't destroy anything. You just stopped letting her destroy you. He pulled back to look at me. When did you become so strong? I was always strong. I just spent 40 years pretending I wasn't to keep the peace. I'm sorry for that. I know. We moved to the couch and sat in silence for a long time. Both our phones started buzzing eventually. Texts from Karen, from Tom, from Patricia herself. We ignored them all. What happens now? James asked. Now we move forward with our plan. We sell the house, we move in with Sarah, we help with the baby, we live our lives. And my mother? Will either come around or she won't. But either way, we don't let her dictate our decisions anymore. She's going to tell everyone we're terrible people. Probably. My whole family is going to take her side. Maybe. You're okay with that? I thought about it. 40 years of family gatherings where I'd felt like an outsider. 40 years of coded criticisms and backhanded compliments. 40 years of watching Patricia manipulate and guilt trip and control while everyone else enabled it to keep the peace. Yes, I said, I'm okay with that. James pulled me close. What would I do without you? You'd be fine. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong right now. That's because standing up to her takes everything you have, but you did it. That's what matters. We sat together as darkness fell outside, holding each other in the home we'd soon be leaving. Starting over at 70 felt terrifying and liberating in equal measure. The next morning, Patricia's car was back in our driveway. "You have got to be kidding me," James muttered from our bedroom window. She was sitting in her car, engine off, just waiting for us to come out, waiting for another chance to argue her case. "What do we do?" James asked. "We live our lives. We go about our day. If she wants to sit in her car, that's her choice. Linda, she could be out there for hours. Then she sits for hours. We're not hostages in our own home." But it felt like we were. I kept glancing out the window as I made coffee, as I got dressed, as I tried to focus on packing boxes for the move. Patricia's car sat there like a monument to stubbornness. At 10 in the morning, she got out and rang the doorbell. We didn't answer. She rang again, and again. Then she started knocking. "Please, James, please just talk to me. I know you're in there. I just want 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain." James looked at me with anguished eyes. "If you let her in, this will never end," I said quietly. "She'll learn that all she has to do is show up and refuse to leave, and eventually you'll cave." "But she's standing out there begging. She's standing out there manipulating. There's a difference." He knew I was right. I could see it in his face. But knowing something and accepting it are different things. The knocking continued for another 10 minutes, then stopped. I peeked out the window and saw Patricia back in her car, on her phone. "She's calling reinforcements," I predicted. Sure enough, an hour later, James's sister Karen pulled up. "Oh no," James groaned. Karen walked up to our door. Her knock was gentler than Patricia's had been. "James, Linda, it's Karen. Can we please talk?" James looked at me. "Karen's reasonable. Maybe we should." "Reasonable until it comes to challenging your mother. Then she's just another flying monkey." "That's harsh." "Is it? When has Karen ever stood up to Patricia?" He couldn't answer that, because the answer was never. Still, something in Karen's voice made him open the door. "Just a crack." "Hi, Karen." "James, thank God. Mom is really worried about you. She's been sitting out here for hours." "I know." "Well, can't you just talk to her? Sort this out?" "There's nothing to sort out. We've been clear about our boundaries. She keeps violating them. She's your mother. She's upset. Can't you just give her a few minutes?" "We tried that yesterday. She showed up uninvited after we explicitly asked her not to." Karen sighed. "Look, I know Mom can be a lot sometimes, but she means well. She's just excited about being a grandmother." "This isn't about excitement. It's about respect." "And you don't think sitting in your house refusing to talk to her is disrespectful?" I stepped into view behind James. "Karen, your mother drove here without invitation. That's the disrespect." Karen's expression hardened slightly when she saw me. "Linda, I should have known you'd be behind this." "Behind what? Behind my husband setting healthy boundaries with his mother?" "Behind this whole situation. A lot of things that aren't true." "Are they? Because from where I'm at, standing, James never had problems with Mom until you started pushing this move to Sarah's." "That's not accurate." "Isn't it? James used to call Mom every day. You two used to visit every week. Then suddenly, nothing. And now you're moving 2 hours away and cutting her off from her grandchild. What else are we supposed to think?" James stepped forward. "Karen, stop. Linda didn't make me do anything. These are my decisions, my boundaries, mine." "Really? Because it sure doesn't sound like you." "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do." Karen's face fell. "James, come on, we're family. Don't let this come between us."
I'm not letting anything come between us, but I need you to respect that I'm an adult who can make his own decisions. Even if those decisions hurt Mom, even then. Karen shook her head slowly. I don't recognize you anymore. Good, James said, and closed the door. We watched through the window as Karen returned to Patricia's car. They sat together for a few minutes, talking. Then both cars drove away. That was brutal, James said. Yes.
My whole family is going to hate us now. Probably. You keep saying that so calmly. Because I've accepted it. You should too. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, am I a terrible son? No, you're a good son who's finally putting his own family first. But she's my family too. And she's using that fact as a weapon. That's the problem. Over the next few days, the messages continued. Patricia, Karen, Tom, various cousins weighing in. Everyone had an opinion about how we were handling things. Everyone thought we were being too harsh. Nobody asked what Patricia had actually said, or